Very nicely done.
Item number 3, Mr. Hill, thank you for waiting patiently.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. SB 869, to prevent handgun thefts from vehicles. Current law requires civilian handgun owners to store the weapon in a locked box or in the trunk when leaving it unattended in a vehicle. This common sense requirement, however, does not apply to law enforcement officers and concealed carry license holders, and unfortunately several handguns have been stolen out of police vehicles and used in deadly crimes. For example, an unattended handgun stolen out of a law enforcement vehicle was used to kill Kate Steinley on Pier 14 in San Francisco in July last year. Just this February, the California Supreme Court affirmed the death sentence for a man who murdered 4 people using a handgun stolen out of the vehicle of an off-duty deputy sheriff. Since I introduced the bill in January, several law enforcement officers have had handguns stolen out of their unattended vehicles. 2 handguns were stolen from Salinas police officers, and just last month, an off-duty FBI agent had his handgun stolen from his vehicle in San Francisco. SB 869 simply extends the existing vehicle handgun storage requirement to anyone who leaves a handgun unattended in their car, eliminating the law enforcement exemption. To address the concern that the bill might impact a gun manufacturer's ability to legally ship a handgun, I've carefully crafted one exemption. When handguns are shipped legally through carriers like UPS or FedEx. The bill is supported by the Brady Campaign, the California Association of Highway Patrolmen, and the California Police Chiefs. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I respectfully ask for an aye vote, members.
Thank you. Witnesses in support, 2 minutes apiece.
Good morning. Juliet Leftwich with the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. As we've heard, the number of gun thefts from vehicles has skyrocketed over the last year, and many of those thefts included law enforcement vehicles. It's simply common sense to require all people who leave guns in unattended vehicles to lock them in a locked trunk or in a separate locked container. We urge you to vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda Wilcox on behalf of the California chapters of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. And obviously the proper and secure storage of handguns and vehicles is a key strategy for preventing the theft of firearms. Stolen guns are a huge threat to public safety, and so this common sense practice should absolutely apply to law enforcement as well as to the average citizen in terms of storing vehicles and cars. And we urge your and there has been, as was stated, quite a few, alarmingly high number, in fact, of crimes that have been committed with guns that have been stolen from law enforcement vehicles. So we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, Kathy Lynch representing the National Shooting Sports Foundation, representing the manufacturers and the dealers. And I just want to publicly thank Senator Hill and his staff for working with us on that shipper amendment. It's very much appreciated, and always appreciate his very measured approach on issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and organization.
Mr. Chair and members, Tim Schott on behalf of the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District, also in support.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Witness in opposition, twice. Witnesses in opposition, 3 times.
Once was enough, Mr. Chair.
Are there any questions from committee members? You may close.
Respectfully ask for an aye vote, members. Thank you so much.
Great. We're recommending, the chair is recommending aye. Madam Secretary, take your roll.
SB 869, the motion is due pass to appropriations. Jones Sawyer.
Aye.
Jones Sawyer, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Lackey. Lackey, aye. Lopez. Lopez, aye. Lowe. Quirk. Aye. Quirk, aye. Santiago.
Bill passes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, members. Appreciate it.
And Mr. Huff, you're here. Item number 1, SB 420 on prostitution.
Mr. Chair and members, currently there is no distinction in law between an adult who is selling sexual acts from the adult who is purchasing sexual acts, or from an adult who is purchasing sex from a minor. For the purpose of data collection, SB 420 divides Penal Code 647B into 3 separate sections in order to separate the buyers and sellers of human trafficking and prostitution. 1, adults offering to engage in commercial sexual acts with a buyer. 2, solicitors of commercial sexual acts with adults. And 3, solicitors of commercial sex acts with minors. As you're very familiar, SB 420 was part of the interim study this past fall, in which, at that time, the chair, Assemblymember Quirk, put together an informative hearing on sex trafficking. Throughout that hearing, it was established we have no real data to refer to when we try to understand the scope of prostitution and look for solutions regarding crimes against children versus adults soliciting one another for sex, which is not always a human trafficking issue. We know that demand for sex acts drives the market for exploitation, especially among children. Under current law, any person who offers to engage in or engages in any act of prostitution is guilty of disorderly conduct. It's time we call purchasing of sex acts what it is and separate out the buyers from the sellers, the adults from the children, who more often than not are victims of sex trafficking. By making a distinct separation in the penal code between the individuals involved in prostitution, the Attorney General will be able to collect data that shows how many children and adults are being purchased for sex. The U.S. State Department estimates 50% of trafficking victims are minors. 3 of the nation's 13 high-intensity child prostitution areas are located here in California. Data generated by SB 420 is essential for crafting solutions to a disturbing public safety enemy in our communities, especially among at-risk youth. I have here today with me on behalf of the bill sponsors, Joni Leventis, head of the Sexual Assault Unit for the Alameda District Attorney, and Dan Filizzato to speak on behalf of the LA County District Attorney.
Thank you. 2 minutes apiece.
So, Mr. Chairman, members, as the Senator said, this bill is a data analysis bill. Under the current statutes, as was discussed in the previous legislation being presented to the committee, current law doesn't allow law enforcement, social services, the Attorney General, anybody to distinguish purely based on a charge whether the individual being charged was a commercial sex worker or a purchaser. This bill will do that. This bill is necessary in LA County. We need better data in order for our law enforcement, social services, public health, our NGOs that need to provide services to these victims to be deployed. This bill is the only way that we will get the data to do that. We urge an aye vote.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members. Human trafficking, as everyone knows, is one of the most destructive crimes, and these victims are faced with tremendous survival and recovery issues that need to be addressed through the resources that we can provide. Victims of human trafficking, especially our children, face great danger in terms of the psychological issues that it causes, their physical safety, sadly including homicide, and the health risk exposures that they face. And while the laws have strengthened our ability to go after the traffickers and to take these predators out of the community, there's a much broader issue with human trafficking that we need to deal with. And as long as there's a demand, there will be an exploiter waiting to pounce on these victims to fill that demand at the expense of their lives and their physical and psychological well-being. Until we eliminate the demand, the sexual exploitation of our society's most vulnerable girls, boys, women, and men will continue. And so we need to have a better understanding through data to be able to deal with issues to better allocate resources for these particular victims. SB 420, by distinguishing between purchasers who are purchasing from adults and purchasers that are purchasing sex acts from children, and the sellers, will help us focus on getting that data so that we can make a more informed public policy and come up with better practices on how to deal with these issues. So while this bill does not change any of the penalties or increase any of the fines, it does allow us to have a better look at the demand that is out there so that we can address that issue. So on behalf of the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, we respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Witnesses in support, name and organization.
Rosanna Carvacho here on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, also in support.
Thank you.
Marty Veronica on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association. We're in support.
Thank you, sir.
Brandon Epp on behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department support, and I apologize for our letter not making it in the analysis.
Thank you, sir. Any witnesses in opposition? Any witnesses in opposition? Any witnesses in opposition? Are there any questions from committee members? You may close, Mr. Roth.
I ask for your aye vote.
Go ahead and take the roll. I have no position either way. I'm sorry.
SB 420, the motion is due pass. Jones Sawyer?
Not voting.
Jones Sawyer not voting. Melendez? Melendez, aye. Lackey? Lackey, aye. Lopez? Lopez, aye. Lowe? Quirk?
Not voting.
Quirk not voting. Santiago?
It's on call. You need one more.
Okay, thank you.
So, Senator Hannah Beth Jackson asked to go next. I granted it. Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Roth, no reflection on you. Just she needs to be somewhere. Item number 6, SB 894.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the accommodation, and to my colleagues as well. Much appreciated. Mr. Chair, members, SB 894 would strengthen our gun laws by requiring a person to report the theft or loss of a firearm within 5 days that the person knew or should have reasonably known that their firearm had been lost or stolen. This bill would provide that a first and second offense would be punished by an infraction, and a third or subsequent offense would be punishable by a misdemeanor. Currently, 10 states, the District of Columbia, and several cities, including Port Hueneme in my district, require firearm owners to report to local law enforcement when their firearms are lost or stolen. The state of California, however, does not have such a requirement. Under current law, firearms dealers and manufacturers must report any lost or stolen firearms within 48 hours. And local law enforcement must enter reports into the state's automated property system database. However, firearm owners whose guns are lost or stolen are not required to do anything. And as a result, law enforcement efforts to investigate gun crimes and disarm dangerous criminals are significantly hindered. This bill will bring several critical improvements to public safety in California. First, this bill would provide a tool for law enforcement to detect firearms trafficking and prosecute so-called straw purchasers. These are individuals who buy firearms on behalf of those who cannot pass a background check or are in the armed prohibited persons system at that time. An analysis in 2010 by Mayors Against Illegal Guns found that states without mandatory lost or stolen reporting laws export 2.5 times more crime guns across state lines than jurisdictions who have such laws. Second, the bill would enhance the Department of Justice's efforts to remove firearms from those who are in the APS system. Currently, these individuals may falsely claim that their illegally possessed firearms were lost or stolen. And finally, the bill would alert law enforcement to the existence of guns stolen by criminals in their communities. A 2007 report by the International Association of Chiefs of Police recommended that state and local governments mandate reporting of lost or stolen firearms, concluding that it would help enable the police to respond more rapidly to a report of a stolen gun and possibly return it to its owner or trace down those who have stolen the weapons. Members, gun violence in our country, as we know, has reached unprecedented heights, and we must do our best to put an end to these senseless tragedies. How many more families have to receive this gut-wrenching phone call that their loved ones are no longer with us? I would like to introduce my two witnesses, Julie Leftwich, with the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, and my friend Amanda Wilcox with the Brady Campaign. With that, I would also ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. 2 minutes apiece.
Good morning. Juliet Leftwich with the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. Although researchers estimate that more than 500,000 guns are lost or stolen each year, according to the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms, only 173,000 of those guns were reported lost or stolen. One of the things that's important about this bill, in addition to the tool for law enforcement that it will provide, is that it will encourage responsible gun ownership. And Mr. Chair, I know that's something that you've been emphasizing this morning. Guns are lethal objects. People who own guns need to keep track of them, and if they are lost or stolen, they need to report that to law enforcement. This reporting requirement will also help law enforcement locate stolen guns and return them to their lawful owners. As Senator Jackson already stated, reporting laws have been enacted in 10 states and in 14 local jurisdictions in California, and these state laws have been shown to be incredibly effective at preventing gun trafficking. I'd also note that the public overwhelmingly supports these laws. National polls has shown that 94% of Americans support laws requiring the reporting of lost or stolen firearms. And finally, I would just note, as the Senate Public Safety Analysis concluded, these laws do not violate the Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination because they do not single out any individual suspected of criminal activity. They apply broadly to all gun owners. I urge you to vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Amanda Wilcox on behalf of the California chapters of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. I will be brief. I think we all share in the interest of curbing the flow of illegal guns into dangerous hands and through straw purchasers. That's the way guns get into the legal market. And the lost and stolen reporting requirement provides a way to identify and prosecute straw buyers. This bill will also increase the efficiency and implementation of the APPS program, the Armed and Prohibited Person System program. A law to improve the data in the database so that DOJ and law enforcement are not going to homes where the gun has truly been lost and stolen. That's been reported. Also, when they go to recover a gun that they think's in the system, similar to a straw purchaser, they can just the person can just say the gun's been lost or stolen, and it's difficult to verify that or hold them accountable without the requirement. And then, as was the point made by the senator, timely reporting of lost or stolen weapons to law enforcement facilitates the recovery of those weapons. And of course, we want those weapons recovered before they cause harm. So we urge your I vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Tim Madden representing the California chapter of Emergency Physicians in Support.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Amy Brown on behalf of the California Academy of Family Physicians in Support.
Thank you.
Adam Kegman on behalf of Everytown for Gun Safety and Support.
Thank you.
Argelia Leon on behalf of Moms Demand Action in Support.
Thank you.
And Brandon Epp on behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in support.
Thank you. Are there any witnesses in opposition? So you have cumulatively 4 minutes. We usually do 2 witnesses, 2 minutes. So you can either decide which 2 but once the 4 minutes are up.
All right. Okay.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members. Mark Henley with the California Waterfowl Association. We're also speaking on behalf of the California Deer Association, National Wild Turkey Federation, Tulare Basin Wetlands Association, and a number of other hunting groups. I'll just say briefly, we believe this bill unreasonably and unnecessarily increases the criminal liability of hunters and other gun owners. Rather than appropriately assisting victims of theft, it basically penalizes them a second time. We also particularly have a problem and have some opposition to the provision that allows a local government entity to essentially adopt their own ordinance and their own regulations as it relates to this. We believe that firearms need to be regulated at the statewide level. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathy Lynch, representing Safari Club International, Outdoor Sportsmen's Coalition of California, and California Sportsmen's Lobby, all sportsmen's organizations in opposition to this bill. As the prior witness mentioned, we do oppose the local control aspect of this, particularly with hunters. A lot of times hunters travel out of jurisdiction for hunting, have hunting cabins and things of that nature. What's always troubled us about this issue has been around for a number of years, is the not having a knowing standard. A lot of time there's vagueness here, and you are putting penalties on citizens that may or may not even realize that their firearms have been stolen, and you're putting time constraints on it, which are also problematic. We certainly don't support straw purchases, and there's several laws on the books already in that regard, and we've worked on many of those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for the record, Dan Reed here on behalf of National Rifle Association and California Rifle and Pistol Association today. We're in opposition, for what has been said before by the previous two witnesses of turning criminals or victims into criminals based on an arbitrary time period. Further, we are in opposition to another misdemeanor crime being a prohibition on your right to keep and bear arms. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman and members, Sam Paredes, representing Gun Owners of California and the Firearms Policy Coalition, in strong opposition to this bill because we agree with the governor when he vetoed this bill in the past that this is truly a bill that's in search of a problem that is not much of a problem in the state of California. So we agree with the governor, and if this bill continues to move forward, we will encourage him to continue to hold the same position. Thank you.
Yes. Are there any witnesses and other witnesses in opposition? Name and organization.
Sergeant Shalisa Williams, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, in opposition.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee members or statements?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Jackson, so reporting that a gun has been lost or stolen, what you're saying in your bill is that will lead to a quicker recovery of that weapon?
It very possibly could.
How?
Well, because if the gun is found or located either in the use of a crime in a garbage bin, obviously if there has been a report that it has been lost or stolen, the victim, having provided that information to the appropriate authorities, will be able to reclaim that weapon. They'll have that information. It will be in the system, and that person can reclaim their firearm.
Okay, but that doesn't answer the question of how, if you report it lost or stolen, how it leads to a quicker recovery of it.
Well, it can, because unless the authorities find the weapon, if it hasn't been used in a crime, for example, how do they know where to go to find the owner of the gun? No one's indicated the gun's been lost or stolen.
But finding the owner of the gun has nothing to do with finding the gun. If the gun's gone, how does law enforcement, if I say my gun's been lost or stolen, and law enforcement says, okay, great.
If the gun is then found, law enforcement makes the connection between the fact someone's reported that their firearm is missing and a firearm's been found, and the law enforcement putting two and two together can identify who is the person who lost or had the firearm stolen.
Okay, but how does that affect public safety? That's what I'm not getting. That gets the property back to the owner, I suppose.
Well, that's true, but there are other aspects to the bill, including public safety, so that probably the most significant is straw purchasers. We have a system.
Already illegal. Straw purchases are already illegal.
I know, but enforcing it is more difficult if you don't have the ability to connect the person with the firearm. And so you have a straw purchaser who buys the firearm and then sells it or relinquishes it to someone who is not otherwise allowed to purchase that firearm or to possess that firearm. And so we want to get rid of those straw purchasers who find a way to make a substantial amount of money selling firearms to people who shouldn't have them, people with a criminal record. And we know all of us, I think, can agree on the fact we don't want people with criminal records having firearms. And that's one of the things that this bill will do.
That was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging me. I don't have any other questions. Just my comment that I think this is punishing the victim. Straw purchases are already illegal, so that's already covered within California law. But to punish me somehow for having a weapon that is lost or stolen and I didn't know it within a certain amount of time, I just don't understand how that increases public safety. And I don't see how this strengthens the law, nor is going to make any communities any safer. I don't see it. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Quirk.
With due respect to the Vice Chair, I do see how it can help. I am concerned about a couple of things. One is I think there should be something, and maybe there is in the bill, about knowing that it was actually missing.
Yes.
Is that in the bill?
Knowing or reasonably should have known. So in other words, that's the standard.
Understand.
Yes.
All right. The other thing is in the veto message. So in the veto message, the governor said the ambiguous manner in which this bill was written would make compliance with the law confusing for legitimate gun owners. So my question is, have you rewritten the bill so it's less confusing, or was the governor wrong and it isn't confusing?
Governor's never wrong.
Okay.
But we have tried to clarify those terms. Reasonable is something that we have so many standards in the law that talk about the reasonable person, the reasonable man. So one of the examples is if you own a cabin up in the mountains and you haven't been there in 2 months, but when you get there you discover that a firearm has been stolen or is no longer there. Reasonably, you couldn't have known for that 2-month period, and therefore you haven't violated any law. So we talk about reasonable people, reasonable circumstances, and that's what this law tries to do. This isn't an attempt to punish anybody. In fact, to the contrary. That's why we have the support of the Los Angeles deputy sheriffs. They recognize that this is a tool in helping them fight crime, not creating more criminals. And in fact, in this measure, the first 2 times that a person doesn't report in a timely fashion are simply infractions. The goal is to try to change behavior so people recognize the importance of reporting when a firearm that they own or possess has been stolen or lost.
Thank you. That was a very good answer, and I will move the bill.
Thank you, sir.
And are there any more questions from any committee members? And you may close.
Yes, I appreciate the discussion. I think this is a very basic and important way to start gaining a little bit more control when firearms are ultimately put into the hands of people who we know should not have them, and certainly helps people who are firearms owners to be able to get the return of their weapons if that is at all possible. So I think it's a good public safety bill. I think it's a good bill in terms of helping gun owners recognize the significance and importance of that ownership and the responsibilities associated with it. And with that, I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. And again, I'm going to go ahead and recommend an aye vote. This is another pro-responsible gun ownership legislation. That is where we're moving towards. And I appreciate you bringing this forward, because this is exemplary of what we're trying to do, both on the Assembly side and the Senate side.
Thank you.
And so I ask for an aye vote.
Thanks.
SB 894, the motion is due pass to appropriations. Joan Sawyer?
Aye.
Joan Sawyer, aye. Melendez? Melendez, no. Lackey? Lopez? Aye. Lopez, aye. Lowe? Quirk?
Aye.
Quirk, aye. Santiago? Santiago, aye.
That measure passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members.
Mr. Roth. And you have 2 measures, SB 867 and 883.